All right, Wildcat fans, welcome back to the final episode of the Inside Out show for the 2024-2025 men's basketball season here at Davidson. This is episode 9.
Yeah, wow. What a journey it's been on this podcast.
Crazy.
I feel like if you look at the evolution of us and this podcast from the first episode until now, our evolution as podcasters, we've just grown so much. The show's grown so much. And this episode is really going to be about looking back.
It is.
But also looking forward.
It has been a while.
Into the future.
Yeah.
But also just reminiscing on what a season it's been and how grateful we are to have been able to play this year. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we know it's been a while since our last episode dropped. Obviously, we've had a lot going on with finishing up our season. So, you know, it's a lot to recap.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll obviously look back even to the start of the season, you know, some of our favorite memories, talk about some stories in the starting five, and then we're going to do some Swish and Brick topics that are more relevant to right now, and then even some looking ahead at the end. So we really cover it all this episode. We really wrap it up, and we are really excited to get into it.
Very much.
So first, let's hear a word from our sponsors at Burritos. Before we get started today, let's hear more about our partners over at Burritos. Located just south of campus on Main Street, Burritos is a family-owned and operated casual dining Mexican restaurant. Burritos offers indoor and outdoor dining options, as well as curbside takeout services. Orders can be placed online at visitcarburritos.com/Davidson. We also forgot to mention that we have a very, very special guest at the end of this episode. We have Athletic Director Chris Clunie, who recaps his time here at Davidson as a player, some of his professional careers before entering back into the Davidson community, and then obviously him as AD currently. So that is a great interview with Chris that we are all looking forward to hearing you guys listen to.
Yeah, and he shed some news shed some light on the news that's going around the program, you know, with the Curry Berman Fund and all of that. And I think it's a really insightful episode. So I think
there's even a good Matt McKillop story in there as well. So
who doesn't love a good Matt McKillop story? I know I do.
Yeah. All right, so should we jump into a little bit of a recap?
Yeah.
You know, obviously
Lots
it's been a while since our last episode dropped, so we got to keep these fans up to date. You know, we finished out conference play, and there was a couple notable things, at least from my ends, being my senior year. This might not have the same impact that you did, but it was a little bit emotional for me as we were winding down the season in conference play. We had a game at Loyola Chicago, which is obviously, you know, my hometown. And I had almost 100 family and friends there, which was a really cool experience. I remember after the game, you know, going back up there, they were all in the one section, so I could see them throughout the game. But then after the game, everyone else had cleared out, and they were just still up there. So it was really cool to see that whole section.
And they all had those little stickers on, right? Little Coachera Club stickers on. I remember
the Coachera crew.
Oh
my mom made those. My mom made some posters that had some stuff on, like a picture and some words. So it was very cool. Shout out to my mom for doing that. And she really did organize all of that as well.
Yeah.
So big shout out to my mom who was able to do that for me. It's just really cool to see, you know, that kind of community at one of my games, because they don't always get to make it all the way out here to Davidson, being from Chicago. So me being a senior, that was really cool. And then obviously followed up with senior night.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How does it feel walking out there on that court? Because I feel like the last 2 years I've been there and I've watched my seniors go, and I'm like, I'm going to miss those guys. But I feel like this year it really sunk in more because I've been with you for 2.5 of your 3 years here.
Yeah. And
I remember I was standing there next to Manny, and he had a little tear come down his face. But we were really, like, it really struck me like, wow, these guys are actually moving on. And I was really appreciative of you, especially because we've been together for these 3 years. Like, it really kind of hit me that it was special, and I want to know.
Thank you.
How it felt.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was holding back tears myself.
Oh, God,
walking out there with my parents. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm an emotional guy too. And when you walk out there, I was the last one, obviously, so I saw everyone go out with their parents in front of me. Then there was no one left, and you can kind of see it coming. And they announce your name one last time. It's a very emotional experience. Obviously, I'm super grateful for everything that Davidson College has done for me. You know, I absolutely love it here. It's the best decision I ever made transferring here. So I really just want to say thank you to you guys, to my teammates, to my coaches, and that's everything that I was feeling in the moment. You know, and then you get up there and you shake hands with Coach, and they give you the plaque, and then they played the video with all of us standing at midcourt.
The video was a tearjerker. Danny, was that you? You made that one?
Yeah. Shout out to the
people that made that video.
Team. It was great.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It really was.
And it's fun it's what we're doing now. It's reminiscing over all the good times. Like there's been so many great times that I've had here at Davidson, sharing it with my teammates and my coaches. You know, I'm just extremely blessed to be in this position, and all those emotions came to me at the same time, standing there at center court. So it was obviously a cool experience. I got to experience it with my parents too, and my family in the stands. So there's just a lot of things coming together, and Davidson really makes it a special experience for all the seniors. And I'm sure, you know, I'm saying this, but I'm sure all the other seniors would attest to the same things as well. Yeah,
it's kind of tough when you're in the middle of a season like that to really be able to look back, because you've always got something next on the horizon. But now I feel like that the season's over, especially with you being a senior. It gives you time to kind of decompress and look back on all of the incredible memories. And senior night, I feel like was a little bit of that. It's like,
for sure.
It's like you're about to move
on
into
deep breath.
The world.
You could look back for a second.
It was quite beautiful, honestly. Like when you walked out, especially, I feel like the crowd we had quite a few people there. The crowd really got into it. Like they really appreciate the impact you've had here as well, and the leadership you've shown. And I feel like everyone kind of reflected that in senior day, which I thought was lovely.
And that's the other thing. You mentioned the fans and the crowd. We had a great crowd at senior night. We've had great crowds all year. That's another thing that's been absolutely unbelievable here is the broader Davidson community, the Wildcat fans, you guys listening at home. It's been unbelievable support from you guys, from everyone that we interact with as players, you know, in the community, the fans, everyone getting behind us during games. You know, it's a Belk Arena. It's a wonderful place to play.
Yeah.
So it's just been great for me.
A really cute moment happened to me a couple of weeks ago when Ricky's host dad took us to Brick House. We were walking into Brick House, and this little kid with his dad is walking out of Brick House, and he goes, "Hey, Hono." And I'd never seen this kid before in my life, but like I almost melted into a puddle right there on the floor. Like this kid had obviously like come to the games and like seen us or something, and he remembered my name, and I was like, it was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, you don't realize the impact you have on some people.
Yeah, and that made me think about it as well, because that was right around the time like senior day was happening, and the season was wrapping up, and it gave me a chance to reflect. Like you really do it for the people that come to Belk and watch the games, and I think that's.
There's no better people to do it for than the Davidson people, if we're being honest. Yeah. So
thank you guys.
Yeah. And then you have to obviously go from that, a little bit more of a emotional night, and we change focus and shift right to the A-10 tournament, you know, the next week. We pretty much had to get right into it, and obviously we ended up getting lined up with Richmond, who we had beat twice in the regular season. We kind of had their number this year, although historically it's been a very evenly matched back-and-forth battle. The coaches have talked about how a lot of our games have gone down to the wire with them in recent history. But we kind of took care of business at home and at their place during the season. So I don't know how you felt about it, but I was feeling really confident going into that first game.
I was confident. Riggs was talking about it, I think, before we played them here. Going around the coaching staff, he asked them, well, do you guys enjoy playing Richmond? And they're like, no, we don't like these guys.
We don't like them.
You guys shouldn't like these guys either. Like,
and we don't.
We don't. And have an edge about you coming into this game, because there is that history there, and we felt that, and I feel like the guys played to that in those 3 games that we played against them.
Yeah. I mean, going 2-0 against a team in regular season and then playing a team, you know, we obviously did it in DC this year. They always say it's tough to beat a team 3 times. No matter what the team is, no matter what the scores were during the season. So being able to go in there and take care of business and get that tournament kicked off with a win, like that was big. And everyone was feeling good in the locker room afterwards. You know, obviously the vibes are great at that point. Like you come in there to win games, and getting that first win, that was big for us.
Definitely. And then St. Louis, that was a tough one.
It was.
They got hot. I mean, they
got hot early.
And when shooters like they have on their team get hot like that, it makes it difficult. But
we fought. We did fight our way back. They came out early, and we certainly fought our way back. We made that a game until the very end. We fought, and it's kind of been that the whole year. It's like this team, no matter how far we get down, like we fight. And the guys in this team, that's why I just love all the teammates that I've had over the years, but specifically this year, like the fight in this team has been great, and it showed. Even though we ended up losing that game against St. Louis, we certainly showed what we were made of and the type of character that is in our locker room. Yeah,
I agree. Do you want to get on? I don't know if you have anything more to say.
No.
About the recap.
I mean, that game was tough for me at the end.
I bet it was, man. Yeah, because you get into those tournaments.
Talking about all these emotions. It's such an emotional episode from us today.
But you win that first game, and then you're in the conference tournament, and you're like, we only have to win 4 more games to win this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like you really emotionally buy into it, especially once we won that game against Richmond. We were like, guys, let's do this. Like, do it for Con, do it for Zach. And that makes it even more heartbreaking when eventually the game doesn't go your way, and you're walking back to that locker room, you're like, damn, I'm going to miss these guys. You know what I mean?
You really, for sure. And that's exactly how I felt. And that's that's what's great about March.
Yeah.
It's just that type of feeling,
the
instant, we could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly had that. And then afterwards, it was certainly a rush of different emotions for me, like obviously sadness. But then, like you were saying with senior night, you kind of look back on my whole experience here, this whole year that we've had. And I just, I couldn't be more grateful and thankful for all the experiences that I've had and everyone I've got to meet and everything I've gotten to do. I've been very lucky even considering that. So there's a lot of different things to weigh, but just could not express how grateful I am for the whole Davidson community. That's kind of the bottom line here.
Yeah. Do you want to stay on the topic of reminiscing and get into our draft instead of going to the Swish Brick?
Yeah, let's do that. I like that idea.
For our final draft this year, we are going to draft our favorite moments from the season.
That's right.
We kind of kept it quite broad. It could be individual plays, individual games, trips that we took. I don't know. That's kind of alluding to one of the picks, but
a couple of the picks. I have a couple of picks.
Exactly. But do you know
who
went last time? I really don't know. Flip a chip. Yeah.
All right. I guess.
I'll give it to
There is an easy 1-1 pick here, which I'm excited to take if I get it. So let's pull up my list here.
Okay. I've got some good ones.
Okay, so I don't know. This might be too broad, but we're just going to go with it, and then we could pivot. If my first pick is our trip to the Bahamas this year for the Battle for Atlantis.
I think you're allowed that one.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to pick. I mean, obviously on the basketball court, a huge win over Providence, and then 2 top 25 opponents that we got to play. That experience was so cool, playing in a ballroom. We've obviously had the podcast there. We've talked about it in depth. Our experience
podcast was fun, and going on those big water slides.
The water slides, of course, the beach, everything about it. It was a great trip. So that when I look back on this season, and I just think of the time I spent with my teammates, some great basketball on the floor, I think of the Bahamas trip. So that's got to be 1-1.
100%. That would have been my number 1 pick as well. So I can take that off my list. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with the game for my number 1 pick. The game for the Hornets' Nest.
Yep, that was my second pick.
We've got the trophy sitting there behind the camera.
Great to have that in the locker room.
Great to have that in the locker room. And I feel like the Davidson community really came out for that game because Charlotte's just down the road. And just like Richmond, we don't like them.
No, not at all.
And especially that means a lot.
Especially that Hornets Nest means a lot.
So that felt good. We raised it last year at their place, and now to bring it back here and defend it, I feel like that it's
almost a better feeling to have it in this locker room. Awesome. And we got the pictures of Forward with the trophy, just like last year. There's a lot to like about that game. That was a great pick.
Thank you. I liked it.
All right. For my second pick, I'm going to take us back all the way to the start of the season, our road win against Bowling Green.
Yeah.
To kick off the season. I know it might be hard to remember, but we were up by a lot, and they fought their way back, making a ton of threes. It was obviously our first Division I game of the season, so it was kind of like the season opener, getting my senior year kicked off. Let's see where we're at. And we got it big. It was a great start. They come back at all these threes, and then we kind of fought and clawed our way, and we came out on top in a very close, very fun game.
Yeah.
So that was, I have very fond memories of that, and that kind of got our season off to a great start.
Yeah, I remember I've talked with guys about that game that, because the season is so long and you play so many games, in the details of individual games sometimes become blurry. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the Bowling Green game is so vividly in my mind. It might have been the orange that they were wearing. It might have been that we were in the middle of nowhere. But that game specifically might have been Marcus Johnson. That dude was baby Escalade out there. But for some reason, that game is just so vividly in my mind. But yeah. I think that was really fun.
It was a really fun game. Yeah, that orange is a bad. It's a weird. They have a weird color scheme.
I wouldn't say
bad.
Kind of
brown.
I'm gonna hate on them, but it's very vivid. That's for sure.
It is interesting.
Okay, for my second pick, I've got some good ones here. I'm gonna go with. I'm tossing it up between 2 right now. I'm gonna go with Michael Katzock making a 3-pointer against Detroit Mercy.
Great pick.
That was an incredible moment. I remember that they got a great video of him from the baseline drilling it, running back down the court like he'd been there before. Which, I mean, he does it all the time to us in practice.
He sure does, yeah.
Michael Katzock can shoot the ball, ladies and gentlemen. That was not a fluke that you saw there in that game. And it was just awesome. He's a senior, and he puts in so much work behind the scenes, and he means so much to the program. To see him get a bucket like that, just meant
that was really cool.
To
and then did you see the post that there was an Instagram account that made a post about him with that video in the background?
Yeah.
The
Walk-On Factory. I don't know if you folks
right.
watching at home would know too much about the Walk-On Factory, but they post these like tribunal kind of posts, these like dedication posts to walk-ons all around the country. And it's a pretty prestigious honor to be a walk-on and get featured on this post, and Michael Katzok did indeed get featured. So
they had quite a paragraph written about him too.
Yeah.
It was a pretty
Salt
good scouting report.
They called him the salt of the earth, Michael Katzok.
He is that and much, much more. He's
more,
everything.
So much more.
He's him.
I could spend hours talking about that man.
There's always a story with him, so I'm glad he made this list.
Very much so. On to you. That's 2?
Yes.
I like my list so far.
For my third pick, I'm going to go with Brock hitting his big-time 3 against VMI. Similar vibes to the Michael Katzok shot, so I'm going to counter you with the Brock 3. Definitely a celebratory experience for us on the bench. The whole crowd got into it. You could kind of see the crowd and the team kind of get behind him and all the anticipation building.
It's an incredible moment.
And then it just
when you see him, because Brock's got a very distinctive wind up to his shot. And he kind of brings the ball right here into his shot pocket. And when we were all on the bench, we saw him get to there. We were like, oh, my goodness, please go.
This thing's going in. Every time he shoots it, you think it's going in. You should see this kid in practice. I mean, he's done that to us countless times in practice.
Frustrating.
So to see it during the game, it was a pretty cool experience.
The amount of times I've seen Brock go to get an open 3 in practice, and I've sprung at him so hard that I've knocked him into the bleachers, like knocked him down into the ground, and he still makes it.
Yeah, still makes it. The thing will touch the ceiling.
Yeah.
No spin, and then just swishes in. It's crazy.
Kid can shoot.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
He's got some skills.
He does.
All right, that's my third pick. What about you?
Okay, honestly, I've exhausted a good bit of my list here, but it's okay. I'm going to go with another individual performance. I'm going to go with Reed Bailey at Richmond.
Yes.
Incredible game. 34 points, went 4 of 4 from 3. Really just tore them up.
He did.
He really did.
He had their number all year. I think every time we played him, he had quite a game.
And that was incredible. Funny thing about that game, though, 34 points, 0 rebounds. And for a guy, Reed Bailey, 6'10", super athlete, you would think when you hear 34 points, you'd also be hearing like 12 rebounds, 10 rebounds.
At
0.
least a handful.
At least 2.
Sometimes the ball just bounces your way.
You miss a shot on the rim, it comes right back to you, put it back in, that's a rebound. Didn't do that because he didn't miss too many shots.
No,
to be
that's
honest.
True.
But yeah, 34 points, 0 rebounds at Richmond. That's my third pick for Reed Bailey.
For my fourth pick, I'm going to go with another game. I'm going to go with our game at UMass. You know, these road wins, they really stick out to me. Getting road wins in college basketball the games we have talked about it, it's very tough. And for us to get a road win against UMass, you know, they're at the time very talented team, but towards the top of the conference, and we knew they were going to be. That was going to be an ultimate battle. You know, they get rebounds, they muck it up. So we knew going in that was going to be a big time game for us, and you know we pulled it out. So that I just have very fond memories of that matchup.
Yeah, I have very fond memories of that game as well. I remember I had a pretty good game there, and one of the players that was guarding me the whole game, we were going back and forth. And at one point, he told me to shave my mustache because it was ugly. So I remember.
I disagree with that.
I remember that very. I remember that very vividly from that game, which I thought was really funny. So
yeah, there was a lot of Davidson family there too. With
we've
Mike
got the
and
Massachusetts
Reed and
connection.
Zach, you know, having a lot of Massachusetts connections, obviously. So there's a pretty good crowd behind us
too. Saw our guy Joe Thompson from
right.
my freshman year. Shout out Joe Thompson. He came to that game as well. Yeah, that was a good game.
So yeah, good memories. That's number 4 on my list.
Okay, gosh. I've got like one more thing on my list, honestly. It was tough to think of things. I'm going to have to come up with a fifth on the fly. But for my fourth pick, I'm going to go with Bobby and Reed combining for 58 points at the University of Rhode Island.
Yep.
That was a
fun game.
That was an incredible performance, apart from the fact that we lost to a bank shot 3 from half court.
Bank shot 3. That was crazy.
I felt like Bobby and Reed could not miss a single shot that game, and they almost didn't. I looked at the stats, and it was ridiculous. But that was Bobby's career high. He had 28. Reed had 30. That was an incredible game.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Fun.
Another road game. These road games.
Road games are fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy. That's one of my favorite things about college basketball is going on the road. I know I've talked to you, and you said you don't really like playing on the road that much, but I really enjoy going into other people's arenas and feeling the energy of their crowd against you. And I feel like it really bonds you and your team together because you're in such a hostile environment, and all you've got is like the 20 guys you came with in your whole group, and it's you against 10,000 people.
No, I will say, in some of those better road environments, I would agree, are extremely fun to play, like Dayton, VCU, those types of games where you just have sold-out crowds and it's absolutely rocking in there, and you kind of are going up against the other team, but also against all their fans behind them. You know, that is really cool, and that's something I also cherish about college basketball in the atmosphere. So there's definitely something to be said about that. For my last memory, though, the fifth one on my list, I am going to go with senior night. I knew I was going to be able to get this one late, probably not as high on Hunter's list, but you know, just because I'm drafting it fifth does not mean it sits fifth on my list. That was a very special night for me, for all the seniors, really. Obviously, being able to reminisce, like we discussed earlier, watch the video, have my parents, have my family there. It's a good experience for any senior, but it was just great for me. So that would be one of my favorite memories from this season.
Yeah,
I bet that finds a spot on my list too.
I bet that was great. Okay. Yep.
Phoning in a response.
I'm phoning
here.
in. I've got a really good one.
What are the people saying?
Now, you'll like this one actually.
Oh, really?
Your player of the week performance. You had your career.
I do like that one.
Was it a career high?
That was my career high. Yep.
34 points against Eastern Michigan.
That's right.
I think we might have talked about this earlier on in the podcast, but it was the quietest 34-point performance I'd ever seen.
I heard that from multiple people.
A bunch of back cuts, catch and shoot threes. You know, your game is simple, but it is effective.
Yeah.
And that was a really good game.
Just all the classic ways of scoring. Don't need too many dribbles.
Don't need to do too much.
It's all shout out to my teammates who are the ones passing me the ball for all those. So
yeah.
It was pretty much a Davidson offensive clinic, that game was. We really
very much so.
We really did some damage to them. They did not know how to guard secondary. They did not know how to guard basic or zoom. That was a fun one. The whole team, really. We played well as a team that game.
That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of reminds me, I've said this about you to a lot of people, but I've never ever played with someone who can back cut as well as you. Something about you, when you've got someone in the bingo box, this might be a bit of jargon for all of you guys, but a back cut is where you fake to go to the ball and you cut towards the basket. And Connor does it better than literally any person that I've ever been on a basketball court with. And you know it's coming, and you can't stop it, and it's a layup every time, or a foul. And it's so frustrating when you play against it, but when you're in our offense and you've been swung the ball and you see Connor going to the bingo box, he back cuts, you just know it's going to be 2 points.
Well, do you want me to let you in on a little secret about my back cutting?
Yeah,
all right.
go on.
So the key to being really good at back cutting is having great teammates like Hunter who know how to throw great passes to you
go, guys.
while
there
you're
you
back
go.
cutting. So it is, as much as it is my cutting, it's just as much everyone throwing the passes and being connected on an offense. So.
Yeah. I feel like that's just a big theme, overarching theme of this whole episode is just the community of people that we have all around this program, how much we enjoy playing with one another.
And rightfully so.
And
it really is the best.
How much fun we've had this year. It's been really great.
All right. Well, that concludes the draft, I think.
Yeah, I really like it.
I appreciate the shout-out. I still like my list better, but maybe you guys could pick him just because of that last pick.
Yeah, shout out to Peyton over there. I had to phone in for my fifth pick.
It's all good. We're a team here, like
but
we said.
Exactly, guys. So with that, do we want to move on to...
Yeah, let's go to Swish and Brick.
Swish Brick.
Back. We'll do the opposite way today.
And then we'll get to our interview with Chris Clunie.
Let's do it. So, do you have a Swish and a Brick? Would you want to start?
I do have a Swish and a Brick.
All right.
This is kind of alluding to our interview with Chris Clunie a bit later on.
Okay.
But my Swish is the fact that Steph Curry is now an assistant GM of Davidson College.
Mm-hmm. He sure is.
Yeah.
You've seen it in the media.
You've seen it
I'm
literally
sure you followed
everywhere.
someone that posted it because we talk about this with Chris, but they did a great job rolling that out, and there's some pretty high-level media members posting about that.
So
it's pretty cool.
I had at least 20 of my friends from back home in New Zealand like, dude, what is going on here? What does this mean? And honestly, I told them, I don't know, guys. So all I know is that he's an assistant GM here, and
we also know he's not going to have an office.
He's not going to have an office.
And he's not going to be playing pickup with the staff members here.
But if he wants one, he can have one. We did get into that in the interview. Whatever he wants, he could have. If he wants my locker, he can have it. If he wants an office up there, he can have it. If he wants a picture of his face painted on the side of Buck Arena, he could probably have that too. So, yeah, that's my Swish.
All right, that's a good Swish, and that it's obviously going to be a great great help for Davidson athletics going into the future, not just for basketball, but Chris gets into this, but every athletics program, the entirety of Davidson College, Davidson athletics, it's big for the whole school. So great Swish, very exciting stuff. My Swish is a little bit more March Madness themed. And I'm going to go with managers as my Swish. So before I even say it, I first want to shout out to our managers, especially BCP, who's graduating with me. He's a senior, in Ford and Beach. They've done an unbelievable job this year traveling with us. Obviously, Hunter knows all the hard work they do. The staff knows. We see it every day, rebounding, towels, waters, everything with travel. It's unbelievable. So big shout out to them. Definitely a Swish, our managers. But my Swish is Amir Khan, or Aura is what they're calling him. He has taken the March Madness world by storm. He is McNeese State manager. He walks into the games with a big jukebox, boombox, stereo, whatever you want to call it, and he's gone absolutely viral. I absolutely love him. They obviously have now lost, but they won their first round matchup. They got an upset. I want to say it's kind of because of him. Maybe he had a little bit.
I feel like he kind of amplifies the swagger that McNeese team played with. They oozed confidence, and when you have a dude like that walking out with you, who looks like he's surrounded by a bunch of ginormous, big athletic basketball players, and he is not the most physically assuming person.
That's one way to put it.
It's pretty funny, and I feel like he was just exuding confidence in the way.
He sure does.
Look at me, guys. Honestly,
he's a good kid though. When he was doing interviews, it sounded like he was media trained. He was saying some great stuff after the game in the locker room. His teammates loved him.
Yeah.
So it was just great to see the camaraderie. The dude has like over $100,000 worth of NIL deals right now. Yeah, so it's just crazy. He's living it up. They have like big Buffalo Wild Wings stickers on his jukebox, and he's doing well for himself. Under Armour sent him like a custom jumpsuit. Did you see that?
I did see that jumpsuit.
So he's living it up right now.
Yeah.
He's my Swish for the week.
It's
everything that March Madness is all about. He's going to be in one shining moment somewhere. I already know it.
He lost me a little bit with that jumpsuit. I'm not going to lie to you, but everything else, I think it was fine.
The aura on the back.
Yeah,
you like that.
That lost me a little bit, but
it was a little much. I couldn't rock it, but I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah. My brick, March Madness themed again. It's the fact that there are no mid-majors or Cinderellas in the Sweet 16.
Oof.
And that's tough, especially being at a mid-major here and being one of the original Cinderella stories of college basketball. It kind of sucks a little bit not to see, I had Drake there. I had them going pretty far in my bracket. I would have liked to see that. McNeese was another one
McNeese as well.
that you could have seen going pretty far. So that just kind of sucks,
It does.
But at the same time, they are Power 5 teams. They are really good.
Yeah. It's tough. I personally like March Madness when there's some Cinderella stories in there. I think it makes it more fun. So I've been a little bit disappointed with the lack of Cinderellas and buzzer beaters. Yeah. And this also kind of leads into my Swish, Brick. Now we are on, which would be perfect brackets, which are 0. There are no more perfect brackets left in the ESPN Tournament Challenge.
Goodness.
And I think everyone kind of assumed there would at least be one Cinderella run this year. Obviously, there's almost never perfect brackets anyway, but my bracket is certainly not perfect, and it's actually really bad because I picked so many Cinderella runs.
Yeah.
I
think I only had the McNeese one maybe in there, but
I had Drake, McNeese.
I had VCU going maybe to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, A10 represent there.
Yeah, got to vote for my guys over there at VCU.
But yet again, no perfect brackets, so it'll be a brick until probably forever.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever going to do a perfect bracket. Yeah. Oh, well done. Well, that was a great draft and great Swish and Bricks.
Yeah.
Themed. So I think
very
we can
relevant.
get to our interview with Chris Clunie.
Let's do it.
Great interview.
Let's jump right in.
I think you guys will really enjoy that.
Yeah. And with that, we welcome on a very special guest, Davidson Athletic Director Chris Clunie, to the Inside Out Show. Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
I am really, really excited to be here. It's a long time coming. It's a long time coming.
It is, and we are excited to have you. And where we want to start, we want to bring it back to your Davidson career here as a player. Obviously, you played for Coach Bob McKillop, and we're just curious, how that came about, what your recruitment process was like, and what ultimately led you to choose Davidson.
Yeah, that's interesting. I recruited myself. So I actually came to Davidson on a Terry scholarship, so a full leadership scholarship. And, came and visited and fell in love with the school, and had reached out to Coach McKillop and Coach Fox and Coach Matheny, who was on staff.
Wow.
Before then, and sent my film and let them know I was going to be on campus. And then when I found out that I got the scholarship, I called Coach McKillop and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Davidson. I've got a scholarship. I don't need a scholarship. I just want a spot to walk on, like a chance to walk on." And that's how it happened. So I ended up coming. And back then, it's a little different than now. Where like if you're going to walk on, you kind of know. It's like what do they call it? Preferred walk-on spot. That didn't exist back then. So like I had to go through. Oh, you had to try out, go through the ringer and like do individual workouts and try to get into pickup and all that stuff. So did that and was able to join the team. So.
Do you have, going from that, do you have any good Coach McKillop stories that he put you through when you were trying out to be a walk-on? Because I've heard his workouts are no joke.
His workouts are no joke. When you're coming in as a walk-on, especially back then, Bob wasn't doing those workouts. It was mostly like the assistant coaches. And Jason Zimmerman, who's no longer here, he's the head coach at Emory University, JZ, former player, great player, was on staff with Coach then. He ran like the walk-on tryouts or a portion of them, and they were terrible, like absolutely terrible. He definitely made another guy who walked on, Andy Altmaier, throw up.
Oh, wow.
Through one. Like you can't even do that stuff nowadays. Like it's not gonna happen. But yeah, it was just like throw the ball up and then you just beating each other up. Like it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. How about you were obviously teammates with our head coach now, Matt McKillop. Do you have any good stories from being his teammate?
Where do we start? Matt, it's interesting when you're playing for your dad because Matt probably had it the hardest out of anybody, and Bob was just super intentional about that, right? He didn't want to – Matt deserved to be here. He was a good player, played a post-grad year, we came in together in 2002, and he played a lot throughout his career and had a good career, but he earned it. Let me get that out of the way, right? But he also, like Bob, was super intentional about making sure he held him to an even higher standard than everybody else. Matt was super emotional. You could sort of everything was on his sleeve. You could see it. And we're down big in the Southern Conference Championship, first round game, senior year, down big against Citadel. And he hits it must have been 3 or 4 threes in the first half. Like we were down big to get us back into it. I remember coming into the locker room and he Matt red faced and he's just like, this is a family show. We're not losing the bleep game, right? Like we're not losing this. Just pure emotion, pure passion, and we didn't lose, and we ended up winning the Southern Conference Championship. But that's a good story, right? Like it just shows how much he cared about trust, commitment, care, TCC, how much he cared about it. But yeah, a lot of good Matt stories for sure. Not sure if he ever. He'll probably tell you that he dunked in college, and I don't think he ever did. Yeah, that's one thing that he probably says that he did. I'm not sure that he ever did.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have one dunk attempt in college, and it is a miss. So we're in the same boat there.
What was I going to say? I got it from Peyton here that he actually hit 7 threes in that game.
Yeah, 7 in the game. I think
incredible.
It was 5. It makes 4 or 5 in the first half. We were down big, double digits, and it's oh man, here we go.
Yeah.
And we got back into it, single digits coming in at halftime. And then turn it around in the second half. It was a big-time performance. Big-time performance.
I mean, we definitely see a bit of that when he comes into the locker room when we've had a bad half and he comes and fires us up. So
yeah, absolutely.
I can see it translating. Kind of want to talk about your journey now after you played at Davidson. The career
that's more of the exciting stuff. Really.
Yeah, exactly. With the Watson Fellowship, you got to travel the world and then came back here, worked for the NBA first, came back here as athletic director. You want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so the Watson Fellowship was kind of a really cool opportunity, kind of a launch pad for my career. Davidson's part of this really cool consortium called the Watson Fellowship. It's small liberal arts schools. They give graduating seniors, at the time it was $25,000. Now I think it's up to $38,000. They give you a stipend to go do whatever you want for a year overseas.
Yeah, wow.
Just whatever you want. So you can't step foot back in the U.S. You can't start a company or invest it. You have to use it towards expenses, et cetera. So people do crazy off-the-wall projects, right? So boat building in Asia, salsa dancing in Latin America. Somebody once looked at the history of bread.
Wow.
Somebody looked at Madonna's influence on pop culture in Europe, sea turtles in the ecosystem, crazy projects. I was a poli-sci major here, obviously played basketball and kind of combined the two. And so my project was looking at how basketball manifests itself in different cultures, right? So first stop was Japan, lived there for two months. Japan was really interesting because it's not a big basketball country, but they were hosting the FIBA World Championships at the time. And basketball became popular there through a comic book. So it actually made sense from a cultural perspective because if you know Japan, anime, manga comics are huge, right? And there was an anime cartoon called Slam Dunk, and that became super popular in the early 90s. And so people actually started like paying attention to basketball because of that. That would never happen anywhere else, but it makes perfect sense in Japan. And just really like a niche sport. Like they had Mama-san tournaments. Mama-san means housewife, so it was like a league for 30 and over moms to play, like, and get buckets, right? Like it was awesome. And they had tournaments in nightclubs with like DJs in a bar and 3-on-3, like, and dancing, and like it was very like street ball niche, kind of interesting because again, it's not the most popular sport there.
Yeah.
Argentina lived in Bahia Blanca, which is like basketball capital of Argentina. Right? Like Argentina is known for like soccer,
football,
right?
Yeah.
Football. New Zealand football. But Bahia Blanca is where Manu Ginobili's from, where a lot of the national team players are from, and basketball is the big one there. And so I lived and trained with an academy there. They bring in kids from all over Argentina and get them like exposure to like professional basketball, and then hopefully they go off and get contracts in Spain, Italy, and Europe. And so like that was more like social mobility, which was really cool. And then South Africa, 5 months, worked for a nonprofit there called Peace Players International, using basketball to educate kids on life skills and HIV and AIDS and post-apartheid racism. And then Italy for like a month, just running elite basketball camps, like the Treviso Euro camp was there back in the day. So I spent a week waking up Marco Bellinelli, former Italian superstar, NBA player, stuff like that. So yeah, pretty awesome. Kind of launched me into eventually getting a job with the NBA.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I imagine a lot of the connections you made during that experience helped propel you and meet people around the NBA. And how did that transition work as far as your first steps in the NBA? Obviously, that's, as far as globally, it's the biggest basketball brand around. So how did that kind of shape your career and then shape you moving here to Davidson and then obviously starting to become an AD?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to work in sports, and then after that fellowship, I knew I wanted to work in basketball. And so I tried everything I could possibly could do to just get exposure into basketball. And I was able to leverage a connection through my time in South Africa to connect with R.C. Buford, then the general manager of the San Antonio Spurs. And I got a job with the San Antonio Spurs, but on the business side, not on the basketball side. I mean, they were coming off a championship. Like, that organization is top notch, right? So, but, I tell folks all the time, like, sometimes you got to do something in order to do something that you want to do, right? So it's just like, let me just get a foot in the door. Getting into sports is really hard. And so I worked in corporate development, but I also coached middle school basketball on the side. And 6 months into that, a job came open with the NBA and in international basketball operations, and my background with the Watson was perfect for it. And R.C. Buford had known that somebody reached out to him, and he knew of my background because I was trying to get in the basketball side, and he actually recommended me for that position. So it kind of came full circle in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's cool. And then now looking to here at Davidson, becoming the AD, I think it's a 21 varsity sports that you oversee. How did that come about, the process for the hiring, and then what has it been like? Is it exactly how you imagined? Is it different? Obviously, college basketball is changing. Yeah. College sports are changing. So how's your experience been so far?
Yeah, it's I loved what I did. Worked for 10 years at the NBA, running incredible international development programs. Had experience with All-Star and Draft Combine. Bob actually tried to hire me back as a coach twice, and I turned him down. Yeah, I was like, I would absolutely come back as an assistant coach if I wasn't working for the NBA. And then this opportunity came up, and I actually recommended somebody else for the job. And that person turned around and was like, you should go for it, and kind of talked me into it. I was thinking that I wanted to be a GM and thought I had to leverage my NBA connections to be a GM, and he kind of turned my perspective a little bit, and he was like, you can be an AD, especially at your alma mater. Even if you don't have the higher education intercollegiate athletics background, you can do it because your skill set is pretty broad. And so he talked me into it. And then came the realization that if I get the job, I get to be Bob's boss.
Yeah.
So instead of working for Bob as an assistant coach, now I got to be Bob's boss. So then I was like, yes, let's go. So got the job in 2018, made the transition, best decision I ever made. And for me, I think, does anybody know where we'd be right now in college athletics, no idea, right? Think about it. My first year was 18-19, 19-20, COVID hit, right? And then you kind of getting through that, and then now you're in NIL and transfer portal and just this crazy landscape and all this shift. And so, I say it all the time, you feel like you're flying the plane and building it at the same time.
Yeah,
and even though I was fortunate that I didn't know the job, but I knew Davidson. So that has helped me. I knew the people, I knew the community, and I'm still figuring out what the heck I'm doing. So
yeah, Davidson's got such an incredible community behind all of the athletics programs. And we saw that recently with the establishment of the Curry Berman Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted you to talk about that, kind of give the people a bit of an idea of what that's all about.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say before you talk about that is the actual implementation and the announcement, the execution of the announcement. I thought it was really cool how I'm seeing Shams is posting about it, and ABC and Good Morning America, the actual rollout of it was very well done. So before you talk about the fund, could you kind of talk about how the planning of the announcement actually came about and what went on behind the scenes there?
Sure. So, we wanted to do it obviously before March Madness started. Obviously, once March Madness starts, you kind of lose the narrative. And for us, it was important for us to, the biggest piece of it was the fund, right? That's the big piece, right? It's all right, Davidson is a small school with big school opportunities, and we're embracing this chaotic future, right, of NIL and revenue sharing and moving forward as a small Division I athletic school. The big news was the fund. For us, secondary was the assistant GM title, right, for Stefan and for Matt.
Yep.
But everybody saw that, and then they just flipped it. And the big news became the general manager piece. So when I actually, through my NBA contacts, reached out to Shams and said, hey, got some big news. Are you interested? Sends him the draft. And he was like, yes, this is great. But I think we kind of want to focus on the assistant GM piece. And I was like, well, our story is going to highlight that, but really focus on the fun, right? Because that's the big piece, right? And Shams just rolled with it. And it was great because it was great exposure, and then everybody picked up from there. And so it sort of became wait, is Stefan retiring? Wait, is Stefan actually taking a role? He's going to be on campus and playing noon ball, right? With the, no. And it's no, wait. At the end of the day, the fun is the biggest piece. But, yeah, it was the exposure was great. We worked. It was a collaborative effort across college communications and marketing, and all folks kind of jumping on board to make sure that we told our story. The story kind of took off, obviously. Anytime you have Stefan with that's what it does. But the big piece for us, obviously, is just the fund and the ability to compete at the highest level. And then, obviously, having somebody like Stefan and Matt who love basketball, love the basketball programs, to be a part of it at the same level. Again, he's an assistant GM in name. We know who the GM is, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Our guy Austin is the GM, but to have Stefan and to have Matt, they're really not doing anything different than what they've been able to do as alums of the college anyway. They just have a name to it now, right? Yeah. So they don't have a contract. They're not employees of the college, right? Just making sure that gets out there. But the rollout was awesome. The feedback and the exposure was great. The branding, it was cool.
So Steph isn't going to have an office up here in the coaching suite anytime soon.
If he wants an office, if he wants a locker, he can have yours.
Yeah.
He actually has. He has one already.
He has a locker.
He has one already, yeah. We'll give him the whole locker.
We'll give him
whatever he wants. No, but honestly, it's he had. So we saw him for the Hornets game, obviously, and we took the Curry scholars, the women's scholar athletes down there, and he pulls Austin aside. He's like, "Hey, I want some business cards," and Austin was like, "Yeah, whatever you want. We will have those made up tomorrow." So he's really excited, but what we tell folks is he can be as engaged as he wants to be. Within the rules, obviously, but it is in name, right? It's just to have him associated with the program. That's the big piece.
Yeah, Austin was making a joke that now Steph Curry works for him. I mean, he said that the other day. And
on
I was
paper,
like, I don't know
on
how
paper,
true that is.
Yeah, but he's not like, Stefan, don't give up your day job. That was never the question, right? That's not going to happen. So.
Yeah, exactly. You got anything?
Yeah, and how about just talking about the fund in general? What does this look like for the future of Davidson athletics? Obviously, it's a big deal. So just talk about what you see. Obviously, changing landscape in college athletics. How does Davidson fit into that? And then how does this fund help us get to where we want to be?
Yeah, so our big thing was trying to figure out a way for us to build what we call sustainable championship programs. We want to give all of our programs, not just the basketball programs, the resources and the platform to win, right? Not going to win it every year, but we want to be in the hunt. And for as a small school, academically focused institution, we're one of those rare schools that you guys know, the great thing about this place is we don't compromise. You get an incredible academic experience and you compete at that. There's not that many liberal arts programs that are going to the Bahamas and playing Gonzaga and Arizona and Providence, right?
That's right.
But our women's volleyball program is playing West Virginia, and our soccer team is playing Clemson, and baseball is playing South Carolina and NC State. Like, all of our programs compete at that level, and that's cool. And we want to that it's a differentiation for Davidson, and we didn't want to lose that, right? And so, but to do that, you need resources. And so part of this was knowing and understanding that when basketball is good, everything is good. So can we create a fund and an endowment to support our basketball programs? Because the basketball programs generate revenue for everybody else. And then simultaneously, once you establish that sort of foundation for basketball, can you then double down on all of our other programs, right? Because that's the other piece is we didn't want to sort of sacrifice our other programs, right? We want to continue to give golf opportunities to win. They won 3 straight A-10 championships. We want them to continue. Like baseball, 5-1 in the A-10 right now, and has Eli Putnam hit like a gazillion home runs this weekend against VCU in a sweep of VCU, right? Like lacrosse had a really big game against Rhode Island this past weekend. And so, like, we want to give all of our programs that opportunity. And so continue to double down on scholarships for our programs, for direct team support. So for us, we're trying to show that, like, small but mighty, right? Like, we can do it. And it's not more with the most. We don't have the biggest budget, but we never have. But we can do more with more. Just a little bit more. And that's what this is about.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's getting me excited, and I'm going out. So this is this is good to hear. I'm excited for the future. Obviously, you got anything else that wraps up my questioning? Yeah.
Can I take that with me afterwards?
Yeah, we have this. Thank you for coming
afternoon
on.
snack.
We have this Carburritos gift card for you.
Yeah, my girls are gonna love this.
Yeah,
this is great.
that's awesome.
This is great. Taco Tuesday.
So enjoy that, and thank you for coming on and being our interview for our last Inside Out Show episode. I know you said it was a long time coming.
Well,
I
tried to get you guys to do the interview in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
but you didn't bite.
That one was
like I threw that out there, and you guys didn't bite. Like I was ready, but you guys went a different direction. And you had Jack on here. You had who else? What other administrator have you had on here?
No one. We were just trying to build up the foundation of our show, build up our following before we had on a guest like you to reach as many people as possible. Yeah. So if you look at it that way, I feel like it's almost a compliment that we've had you on.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the spin. You're really good at that.
It's as simple as saving the best for last.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That's all it is.
Yeah. No, I'm big fan of the show. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for what you guys did this season. Connor, thank you for what you gave Davidson. Hunter, man, you. Hardest part is like who's gonna take his place next year. You know what I mean? Like who you gonna like? Are there tryouts for that? Just like I had a tryout to make the team. Are you gonna make people like throw up and like you know what I mean? Like just
Roberts Blums has been in my ear about it constantly, and we haven't had the opportunity to have him on the podcast this year. But he has been asking me who's going to be the next co-host, and I don't even know if we're doing the show next year. But if we do, he is in line for that role.
Yeah,
so
he's a talker.
He is. I think that'd be a good option. I think I may have to be part of the selection committee for replacing myself. I think that's only fair.
That makes sense.
So we're going to make sure we have a very thorough approach to this and make sure we get the best teammate available.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be alongside Hunter for next
season's
Gotta
keep it going.
Episodes.
Big shoes to fill.
Wow. We'll see. All right, Chris. Well, thank you for being on. Really appreciate your insights and updating us with everything Davidson Athletics. And yeah, enjoy the Carburritos.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
See ya. All right, before we officially wrap up our last episode of the season here, we just wanted to give one final shout-out to everyone behind the camera that worked very hard to make this season, this Inside Out show possible. There's a lot of people that we want to thank. There's a lot of people that have spent many hours editing and setting up and helping us with ideas, creative. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, so we just want to thank all of them.
Yeah, a show as well-oiled and presented so well as this, we aren't as good of podcast hosts as it looks on the camera.
Yeah, they do make us look a lot better than we are.
On Spotify, there is a lot of cutting. There is a lot of editing that has to be done to make us sound as good as we do and look as good as we do. We actually have makeup. No, I'm joking. But, yeah, I want a big shout-out to Danny, Finch, Deja, Peyton. Danny and Finch are here with us, and just everybody that all had a little part in putting this together. Kim at Carburritos as well.
Yep.
She was instrumental in getting the show off the ground in the first place.
Yeah.
So big shout out to her as well, and the people down at Carburritos for making that amazing food.
That's right. And obviously, like you said, big shout out to Carburritos. And one final reminder to stop by Carburritos and mention the Davidson Basketball or Inside Out show and get a free chips and salsa with any order of an entree. You know, you guys have heard it here many times throughout the season, giving you one final reminder. You're going to see Hunter and I there a lot this spring.
Yep.
So stop by, mention us, mention the Inside Out Show. You know, we'll see you there.
Yeah, wow. We will.
It's crazy.
Is that all we have to say?
Is that it? Is this how we end it?
I think so, man.
All right, dude. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Should we do a handshake or something?
It's been fun. Well, we do have our handshake. Should we?
Oh, we do.
Should we?
That's our handshake.
There's our handshake right there.
Signing off the Inside Out Show for 2024-25 season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bittersweet moment. Never thought we'd get here.
Yeah. All right.
Here we are.
With that, we want to thank all you guys for listening. Obviously, we have a wonderful set of fans and Wildcat family members that obviously you guys have been with us the whole season. We've talked about you today, all the people around here. Yeah. Davidson's a special community, and we couldn't do it without all you guys. So just wanted to say thank you. You know, it's been a wonderful season, wonderful year, wonderful time doing this. And yeah, with that, we're signing off one last time.
Yeah, wow. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
I'll see you next year then. Good night.